The sun rose over the shifting sands of El Tara Prime, casting long shadows across the endless desert. Claire Monroe adjusted her goggles and wiped the sweat from her forehead as the Terran Research Corps rover crested a dune. She had been assigned to scan the area for unusual energy readings and buried structures. Years of experience had taught her that the desert often held secrets beneath its golden waves, and today, her instincts told her something important lay hidden. The storm the night before had moved massive amounts of sand, revealing strange outlines. Beneath the surface, Claire's heart raced as she pointed to a partially exposed structure with smooth metallic walls that glinted in the sunlight. She signaled her team to bring the excavator close and began preparing the equipment as they removed. Layers of sand, the structure grew clearer. The walls were taller than any building Claire had seen, and the surface shimmered with a strange iridescence that seemed almost alive. There were symbols etched into the metal, spiraling in patterns that her eyes could barely follow. Each curve and line pulsed faintly as if the structure itself was breathing. Claire ran her hands over the nearest panel, noting that the metal was unlike anything she had handled before. Its cool surface hummed under her touch, and for a moment she imagined it calling to her in a language she did not know. The team exchanged glances filled with awe and unease. The main opening of the structure revealed a shaft that descended deep into the planet. The elevator, as Claire would later call it, stretched far beyond the eye could see. It was wider than the largest cargo shafts, and its walls were adorned with pulsing light that followed a rhythm like a heartbeat. She knelt to examine the entrance, noting an access panel that appeared dormant for centuries. Claire worked with delicate tools and simple ingenuity, replacing corroded circuits with materials she had on hand. She had no schematics, only her experience and intuition guiding her hands. Finally, with a soft hum, the lights inside flickered and the shaft vibrated slightly. A deep rumble echoed from the depths, startling the team, and dust fell from the ceiling. Above the shaft, a cover lifted as if the structure was responding to her touch. The hum grew stronger and then abruptly stopped, leaving a silence that pressed on them from all sides. Within the elevator chamber lay a figure she had not expected. A woman with pale skin and long hair of silver and blue slept in a suspended pod of shimmering light. Her armor reflected the soft glow of the walls, and her breathing was slow and steady. As Claire stepped closer, she noticed the dragon curled beside her, its wings folded neatly and scales reflecting the faint light from above. Claire froze, unsure whether to wake the creatures or leave them undisturbed. She recalled old legends of the Ardent Sky Dominion, an empire that vanished centuries ago, and wondered if she was seeing the last remnants of a lost civilization. The dragon lifted, its head slightly eyeing her with golden eyes filled with curiosity but calm. Claire took a cautious step forward. Its gaze seemed intelligent and patient, as though it understood her presence without needing words. The elf woman remained still, but the air around her vibrated with energy. The elevator itself seemed to pulse stronger in response to Claire's presence, and she could feel the warmth of the machine mingling with the cold of the deep shaft. She made the decision to restore minimal power to the elevator. First, she cleared the ancient access panel and began connecting her modifications. The process required patience, as the circuits were unlike anything she had worked on before, but Claire's hands moved with confidence honed from years of handling difficult machinery. A spark of light ran through the elevator and the symbols on the walls brightened. Claire could feel a connection forming, a line of communication between her hands and the structure. It responded to her touch as if recognizing her as someone capable and trustworthy. From somewhere deep within the elevator came a faint vibration, a sound almost like a heartbeat or the first stirring of a slumbering creature. Claire's heart pounded as she realized that the elevator was not only a machine, but a vessel of power capable of awakening things long dormant. The team watched as small fragments of ancient light began drifting from the walls, illuminating the figure in the pod. The elf woman shifted, slightly, her eyes remaining closed as if sensing the world outside the pod for the first time in centuries. The dragon stretched one wing, gently brushing the floor. Claire took a deep breath and continued her work, focusing on the circuits she replaced. An ancient coil with a fusion module she had fabricated herself using simple tools and components. This act seemed to bridge the gap between human ingenuity and alien engineering. Suddenly, the pod began to rise, lifting the elf woman and the dragon. Off the ground in a halo of shimmering light, dust and particles floated in the glow, creating a scene that was almost magical. Claire could hardly believe what she was witnessing. The elf woman opened her eyes, slowly revealing pupils like molten gold and irises glowing faintly blue. She looked around, taking in the chamber, her gaze eventually landing on Claire. Her voice was soft but carried a resonance that seemed to echo in the walls. "I have slept for centuries. Who has awakened me?" asked the elf woman, her tone calm yet filled with authority. Claire stepped forward, speaking carefully. "My name is Claire Monroe. I am a technician from Terran Research Corps. I did not mean to disturb you. I was restoring power to the elevator." The woman studied her silently for several moments, then nodded slightly, showing a mixture of understanding and caution. The dragon Calith nudged her gently and let out a soft growl, the sound vibrating the walls and filling the chamber with warmth. Claire felt a strange sense of connection with the pair. Though she had only just met them, she realized that the elevator was not just a piece of machinery. It was a link to the past, a vessel of stories and power that her people had never known. Over the next hours, Claire carefully explained her actions, showing the elf woman the modifications she had made and the simplicity of her approach. Despite the technological gap between them, Lysera understood quickly, her memory filling in the blanks of what had been lost over centuries. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the desert around the elevator glowed faintly in the last rays of light. The team gathered their equipment, but Claire stayed close to Lysera and Calith, her mind racing with possibilities of what this discovery could mean. The elevator hummed gently, and the symbols on the wall pulsed softly. Claire realized that this was only the beginning, that the ancient elevator had more secrets to reveal, and that her life had changed forever. She had not only uncovered a forgotten relic, but awakened a guardian of a lost empire, and her simple ingenuity had bridged a gap between civilizations, separated by centuries, as the night settled over the desert. Claire gazed at the elevator and the slumbering horizon beyond, feeling a mixture of awe and responsibility. She had unlocked a door to the past and perhaps a path to the future, one that would involve battles, discoveries, and alliances she could not yet imagine. The first day beneath the dunes had ended, but the story of the elevator had only just begun. The soft hum of the elevator filled the chamber as Claire Monroe carefully observed the elf woman and her dragon companion. Lysera slowly moved her hands as if feeling the air for the first time in centuries. Her gaze lingered on the glowing walls and the strange patterns of light pulsing rhythmically. Calith shifted beside her, stretching wings that glimmered in the elevator light. Claire felt both awe and nervousness. She had never seen creatures like this alive. She wondered how they would respond to her presence. The dragon gave a soft rumble and nudged Lysera gently while keeping eyes fixed on Claire as if gauging her intentions. Lysera spoke softly. "I am Lysera, commander of the Ardent Sky Dominion. For centuries I have slept waiting for the moment of awakening. My companion Calith has been with me through the last of our empire." The voice carried the weight of history and a strange calmness. Claire nodded, trying to absorb. "Everything. I am Claire Monroe, a technician from Terran Research Corps. I restored power to the elevator and it awakened you." She spoke cautiously, unsure how Lysera would respond. The elf woman tilted her head, studying Claire as if measuring her honesty. Calith lifted his head and emitted a low sound that vibrated through the chamber. Lysera smiled faintly at her companion, then looked back at Claire. "There is much you do not know, child, but your actions have called me from sleep." The words were gentle yet carried authority. Claire took a deep breath and moved closer, showing the panels and circuits she had worked on. Her fingers traced the modifications she had made, explaining the simplicity of the tools and materials she used. Lysera nodded, her understanding growing with every movement and explanation. For hours they examined the elevator together, Claire learning about the past and Lysera recalling memories long buried. She spoke of the Dominion, its rise across the stars and its sudden fall due to betrayal and war. Her memories filled the air with images of flying cities and battles in the skies. Claire could only imagine the scale of what had been lost. Kalith watched over Claire as she worked on the circuits, occasionally emitting soft sounds that echoed through the elevator. Lizera touched the dragon gently and whispered words that seemed to calm the creature and yet gave it energy. The bond between them was clear and undeniable. Claire realized that the elevator was far more than a machine. It was a vessel, a link across time and space, holding the power of a civilization long gone. She marveled at how her simple modifications had bridged centuries and awoken life that had waited for so long. Lysera stood and walked through the chamber, her movements graceful and powerful. She placed her hands on the walls and the symbols responded, pulsing in brighter rhythm. The energy of the elevator surged as if recognizing the true air of knowledge and technology. Claire watched in amazement as Lysera and Kalith began to move in harmony with the elevator. Each step they took seemed to unlock small fragments of power. Light danced across the walls, creating a scene of beauty and energy, unlike anything Claire had ever witnessed. The conversation turned to the stars. Lysera spoke of the Dominion fleet of ships hidden among asteroid belts dormant for centuries. She explained that the elevator was a portal capable of connecting distant cities across galaxies, but it had been sealed to prevent misuse. After the fall of the Dominion, the technology was buried and forgotten. Claire listened carefully, imagining the possibilities and dangers that came with such power. She realized the responsibility she carried in restoring even a fraction of this technology. Her hands, it seemed, had reached across time, bringing hope and peril together. Kalith spread his wings, fully brushing the walls of the elevator, causing a shower of sparks from the interaction of scales and energy fields. Lysera laughed softly, a sound that carried both joy and sorrow. This was a moment of reunion for the lost empire and its guardian as the sun rose outside the chamber. Lysera and Claire worked together to stabilize the elevator fully. Lysera's knowledge of her civilization, combined with Claire's practical experience, created a balance that neither could achieve alone. It was a fusion of past and present, of skill and ingenuity. During this time, Lysera explained the dangers they faced if the Dominion fleet were to awaken. Fully without guidance, it could mistake humans for enemies. Claire nodded, understanding the delicate balance required. She had awakened life that had slept for centuries, and now she had to ensure it did not lead to destruction. Kalith flew in small arcs within the chamber, testing the currents of energy that flowed through the elevator. The dragon moved with elegance and strength. Lysera followed, using her powers to guide the flow, keeping everything in harmony. Claire helped redirect power and monitor systems, making adjustments that would prevent collapse. The day passed slowly as both learned from each other. Claire absorbing knowledge of alien technology, and Lysera understanding human simplicity and ingenuity. The exchange built a connection between them stronger than either had anticipated. Finally, as night approached, the elevator pulsed steadily, its light calming and stable. Lysera turned to Claire with a look of gratitude. "You have done what our best minds could not." Simple actions by someone untrained have unlocked what centuries of planning failed to achieve. Claire felt a surge of pride and wonder at the acknowledgement. Kalith lowered his head to Claire as if showing respect for her contribution. The dragon's eyes gleamed in the dim light, and for a moment a bond formed between human and guardian, a promise of cooperation and understanding. Lysera spoke softly. "We must prepare for what comes next. The fleet will awaken soon, and we must guide them. The knowledge you have restored is powerful and dangerous. We cannot allow it to be misused." Claire nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As the night deepened, the chamber glowed faintly, and the elevator hummed in steady rhythm. The desert outside was silent, yet the world within the elevator was alive, vibrant, and full of possibilities. Claire felt a sense of awe and responsibility. She had awakened a guardian of an ancient empire, and with her actions set in motion a chain of events that would shape the future. In the quiet moments, Claire reflected on how her simple ingenuity had bridged centuries and civilizations, how a human mind could awaken a force long dormant and create alliances that spanned galaxies. She realized the adventure had only just begun, and that the bond she had formed with Lysera and Kalith would guide them through the challenges ahead. The first day of awakening had ended, but the story of the elf woman and her dragon companion had begun again. Claire felt ready to face what lay ahead, armed with knowledge, courage, and the simple ingenuity that had started it all. The elevator glowed softly as Claire Monroe monitored the systems she had restored. She watched Lysera and Calith move through the chamber in quiet coordination. The symbols on the walls pulsed brighter, as if sensing the presence of the ancient beings alive once more. Claire felt a deep sense of connection to the machine she had repaired. The energy that flowed through it was unlike anything she had seen before. It hummed with power, as if alive, responding to her hands and the presence of Lysera and her dragon companion. Lysera approached Claire with calm authority. "You have awakened more than just this machine. Claire, your actions have sent a signal across the stars." The words carried both warning and awe. Claire shivered, realizing that her simple act of repair had far-reaching consequences. Calith lifted his wings, partially brushing the walls of the elevator. As he moved, the light pulsed in rhythm with his movements. Claire could feel the raw energy in the chamber and understood that the dragon was both guardian and amplifier of the ancient technology. The signal began to manifest across the sky. A faint glow appeared above the desert horizon that had no source within the atmosphere. Claire and Lysera watched in astonishment. The message they had sent was traveling beyond the planet, reaching deep into space and calling dormant forces that had not moved for centuries. Lysera spoke softly, explaining that the Dominion fleet had been placed in stasis to prevent misuse after the fall of the Empire. The leaders had hidden them among asteroid belts. The fleet was programmed to awaken only when a signal of life and understanding reached it. Claire realized that her actions had fulfilled that condition, and the fleet was beginning to stir. The dragon Calith roared softly, his voice echoing through the chamber. The vibrations caused the symbols to flare brightly. Claire felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had unlocked something far greater than any technology humans had discovered before. The first drones appeared in the night sky beyond the desert. They moved silently, glowing faintly with energy. Claire and Lysera watched them descend carefully, analyzing the intent of their movements. The ancient programming had activated but had no clear target, yet Lysera's voice was firm and commanding. "We must guide them. Their technology is powerful, but unaware of our presence. We cannot allow them to harm humans or this world." Claire nodded, understanding the gravity of their task. She realized that awakening these ships required responsibility and vigilance. Claire worked with Lysera to direct the energy flow of the elevator. Her simple modifications were now essential in controlling the ancient systems. They combined human ingenuity and the knowledge of the lost empire, forming a balance that allowed them to communicate with the fleet. Calith flew in arcs within the elevator chamber, testing the currents of power. Each flap of his wings sent waves of energy that helped align the signals. Claire adjusted the panels and circuits with precise movements. She had learned quickly from Lysera, and now acted as both technician and mediator between human and ancient alien power. Outside the desert, the drones began to form patterns of light. Claire realized that the fleet was awakening cautiously, sensing life and intelligence in the world below. The pulse from the elevator acted as a beacon, drawing attention and signaling that humans were present, but not hostile. Lysera moved gracefully among the symbols on the walls, her hands tracing lines of power as the elevator hummed more intensely. Claire followed her guidance, making adjustments to stabilize the flows of energy. They worked as one team united across species and time. The night grew deeper and the sky was alive with small points of light. The dormant ships responded carefully, their movements synchronized as if recognizing the presence of Lysera and her dragon. Claire could hardly believe the magnitude of what was occurring. A moment of silence fell over the chamber. Lysera spoke quietly. "Our ancestors built these vessels for war and for protection. Now they awaken, guided by human hands and hearts." Claire felt the weight of her role in history. She had bridged centuries and awakened a civilization without knowing the consequences. Fully, Calith landed softly near the central console, the dragon's eyes glowing as he watched the symbols pulse. Claire understood that the dragon was connected to both Lysera and the elevator, forming a triad of control and harmony. Her simple interventions were now key to stabilizing the awakening. "Fleet," Lysra turned to Claire with gratitude. "You have done more than repair a machine. You have restored balance." Claire felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. She realized that her actions were shaping events far beyond what she could see. The drones continued to move in the sky, forming a pattern that indicated coordination. Claire realized that the fleet would soon awaken fully if guided correctly. Lysra's calm demeanor and knowledge, combined with Claire's quick thinking, allowed them to direct the ancient technology safely. The energy from the elevator radiated outward, creating a protective field over the desert. Claire could feel the power flowing into her hands as she adjusted the systems. It was a sensation she had never experienced, both thrilling and humbling. Lysra spoke of the importance of caution, explaining that the fleet would not understand human intentions immediately. Their programming was rigid, and only through careful guidance could they avoid conflict. Claire nodded, realizing the delicate balance required. Calith spread his wings once more, and the light in the elevator responded. Claire adjusted the panel, sending signals back through the circuits. The interaction of human ingenuity and ancient technology created a harmony that began to calm the awakening fleet. The desert sky filled with light and movement. As the fleet became aware, Claire felt the significance of her simple repairs. Her actions had sent ripples across space, awakening forces long dormant. The story of humans and the ardent sky dominion had intersected through ingenuity and trust. The night ended with the elevator humming steadily and the fleet responding positively to guidance. Claire felt a mixture of awe, fear, and excitement. She had played a role in events far larger than herself. Lysra turned to Claire. "We are ready for what comes next. The fleet is awakening and will need guidance. The decisions we make now will shape the destiny of many worlds." Claire nodded, knowing that the adventure was only beginning, and that the signal she had helped send would echo across the stars forever. The desert around the elevator was quiet as Claire Monroe and Lysra prepared for the challenges that had begun to emerge. The awakened fleet moved cautiously through space, but the first wave of drones was already descending toward the planet. Their energy glowed faintly in the night sky. Lysra mounted Calith, guiding the dragon through the elevator chamber. Their movements were fluid and commanding as the ancient symbols pulsed in rhythm with their actions. Claire monitored the systems, making precise adjustments with her hands. Her repairs had become the bridge between human and ancient alien technology. The drones began scanning the area. Claire and Lysra watched as the machines moved systematically, their sensors probing the desert floor. Calith roared, sending vibrations through the elevator chamber that disrupted the drones, briefly giving the humans an advantage. Claire worked quickly, rerouting power to the elevator, creating a protective shield over the desert. It hummed with energy as it deflected the first attacks from the drones. Sparks flew as beams of energy collided with the shield. Claire adjusted the circuits with careful precision, keeping the flow stable. Lysra moved gracefully, guiding Calith through the cavernous elevator space. The dragon unleashed bursts of fire that illuminated the walls and disrupted the drone systems. Their coordinated attacks began to repel the initial wave, but the fight was far from over. The first drones collided with the protective energy field. Claire felt the vibrations through her hands. The elevator responded like a living entity, amplifying her adjustments and channeling energy into the shield. The desert shook as power flowed outward in waves of light, and Lysra shouted commands to Calith, moving him strategically through the chamber. Their synergy was remarkable. Claire could see the bond between dragon and elf deepening as they fought in unison. Her own confidence grew as she realized her simple ingenuity could influence events on such a massive scale. The battle moved beyond the elevator as more drones arrived. The desert became a battlefield of light and energy. Claire directed the elevator's output, creating safe corridors for Lysra and Calith to move. The dragon's wings cast shadows across the sand as he flew with precision, striking drones and avoiding counterattacks. Lysra called upon her ancient knowledge of energy manipulation, directing beams and pulses that disrupted the machines. Claire synchronized the power flow using her human understanding of mechanics. The combination of old and new knowledge created a force neither could have achieved alone. Drones fell from the sky in arcs of sparks and light. Claire watched, closely making minor adjustments to stabilize the elevator's systems. Lysera and Kalith pressed forward, driving back the enemy wave with strength and strategy. The fight reached the core of the elevator as one drone attempted to breach the chamber. Claire acted quickly, redirecting energy from auxiliary systems into the main conduit. The shield flared brightly, repelling the intruder, but shaking the walls and floor of the chamber. Kalith landed briefly and swept his tail, clearing debris, while Lysera activated a pulse that disabled several nearby drones. Their coordination was seamless. Claire felt the rhythm of battle flowing through the elevator, responding to her touch and Lysera's commands. The sky above the desert was filled with drones, and flashes of light as more waves arrived. The protective field maintained stability but required constant attention. Claire worked tirelessly, adjusting circuits, rerouting energy, and monitoring systems. Her simple but effective methods kept the balance between chaos and control. Lysera guided Kalith in wide arcs through the upper shafts of the elevator chamber. Their attacks became more precise as the pair adapted to the drone's movements. The dragon's fire lit up the chamber with a brilliant glow, and the energy patterns on the walls pulsed in harmony with their efforts. Claire realized the battle was not just physical, but also a test of ingenuity and strategy. The drones were powerful and relentless, but her human perspective allowed her to see patterns and solutions that Lysera alone might have missed. Their combined efforts created a synergy that repelled the enemy. Hours passed, and the waves of drones began to thin. The protective energy field remained intact thanks to Claire's adjustments and the coordinated attacks of Lysera and Kalith. The chamber vibrated with the residual energy of the battle, but held strong. Lysera turned to Claire, her eyes glowing with gratitude and pride. "We could not have done this without your ingenuity." Claire responded with a tired smile, feeling the satisfaction of accomplishment. She had bridged a gap between worlds using simple tools and her own understanding. Kalith settled near the center of the chamber and let out a low rumble, as if acknowledging Claire's role in the defense. The dragon's scales glimmered faintly in the afterglow of the battle, and Lysera placed a hand gently on his neck in a gesture of calm. The desert outside was quiet once more, but the presence of the awakened fleet lingered. Claire knew that the fight was far from over. The battle had been won, but guidance and vigilance would be required to maintain control and prevent further attacks. Claire reflected on the events that had unfolded. Her simple repairs had become the cornerstone of an interstellar defense. She had witnessed the power of ancient technology and learned from beings who had lived through centuries of war and knowledge. Lysera spoke softly. "We have survived the first wave, but the fleet will need direction." Claire nodded, understanding the responsibility she carried. The actions of a single human had awakened a civilization, and now required careful stewardship to prevent catastrophe. Kalith shifted and exhaled a plume of warm air that swept through the chamber. The vibrations resonated with the energy of the elevator, and Claire felt a renewed connection to the machine. She adjusted the circuits again, ensuring stability and monitoring the remaining drones in. The sky night fell fully over the desert, and the stars reflected the glow of the remaining drones. Claire watched with a mixture of awe and concern. She realized that her ingenuity and courage had forged a new alliance between human and ancient empire, and that the challenges ahead would require continued effort and trust. The elevator pulsed gently in the quiet aftermath of battle. Claire stood with Lysera and Kalith, her heart filled with determination. She had seen what power could awaken and what responsibility followed. She understood that the next steps would shape the destiny of many worlds, and that human ingenuity could make a difference even among the stars. The battle had ended for now, but Claire knew the story was far from finished. The elevator hummed steadily, signaling readiness and potential. Lysera and Kalith prepared for the next phase of their mission, guided by the skill, courage, and simple ingenuity of a human technician who had awakened a legend. The desert around the elevator was calm as Claire Monroe surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The drones had retreated, and the awakened fleet hovered in orbit above the planet. Their lights shimmered faintly, signaling awareness but not hostility. Claire felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. Lysera and Calith moved through the chamber in quiet harmony. The elf woman's eyes glowed softly as she placed a hand on the elevator wall. Feeling the pulse of the energy, Claire realized that the machine had become more than a tool. It was a living link between the past and the present. Claire stepped forward, showing Lysera the final adjustments she had made to stabilize the elevator. Her hands moved with precision, guided by experience and intuition. She had learned much from Lysera, and the process had strengthened her confidence. Lysera smiled faintly. "You have done more than repair a machine, Claire. Your actions have preserved life and knowledge across centuries." The words filled Claire. With a sense of purpose, she had bridged civilizations and ensured the survival of both human and ancient technology. Calith nudged Claire gently, his eyes reflecting trust and acknowledgement. The dragon's presence was both comforting and powerful. Claire felt the bond deepen, knowing that she had earned the respect of a creature that had lived through centuries of war and memory. Lysera walked to the center of the chamber, her hands hovering above the glowing symbols. She spoke softly. "This elevator holds the map to lost worlds, civilizations, and knowledge long thought forgotten. Your ingenuity has unlocked its potential and allowed us to guide the fleet safely." Claire listened carefully, understanding the responsibility now resting on her shoulders. The night sky was alive with the movement of the awakened fleet. Claire watched as ships adjusted their positions in orbit, forming patterns that reflected coordination and awareness. Lysera explained that the fleet would now respond to guidance from those they trusted. Claire realized that her actions had created a bridge across space and time. Calith soared through the chamber, lifting briefly and then landing gracefully. The dragon exhaled a plume of warm air that swept through the elevator. The vibrations resonated with the energy flowing through the machine. Claire adjusted the circuits once more, stabilizing the core and ensuring a steady output. Lysera placed a hand on Claire's shoulder. "There will be challenges ahead. The fleet will awaken fully, and we must guide them carefully." Claire nodded, understanding the weight of the task. She had awakened a civilization, and now had to ensure balance and harmony between past and present. Over the following days, Claire worked closely with Lysera and Calith. They explored the depths of the elevator, discovering hidden archives and access points to other worlds. Claire's simple methods, combined with Lysera's ancient knowledge, created solutions neither could achieve alone. The desert around the elevator began to shimmer with faint energy as the machine adjusted to new calibrations. Claire marveled at the harmony between her hands and the living structure Lysera observed quietly, offering guidance and encouragement. Claire repaired additional conduits and stabilized auxiliary systems, ensuring that the elevator could withstand fluctuations in energy and activity from the fleet above. Each adjustment she made strengthened the bond between human ingenuity and ancient engineering. Lysera spoke of the history of the Ardent Sky Dominion, their rise and fall, and the lessons learned. Claire absorbed every word, realizing that the past contained knowledge essential for guiding the awakened fleet. She understood that technology without wisdom could be dangerous, and her human perspective added a unique balance. Calith stood near the central console, wings folded. His presence was a constant reminder of the living power contained within the elevator. Claire learned to communicate with the dragon, subtly adjusting systems in response to his movements and cues. The synergy between them was remarkable, as the fleet adjusted to the guidance provided by the elevator. Claire watched with awe. The ships moved with purpose, and understanding their alignment reflected trust in the decisions being made from below. Lysera and Claire worked as one, directing the ancient technology with care and precision. Claire realized that her simple ingenuity had achieved what the most advanced minds of the past could not. The elevator was now fully functional, a beacon of cooperation and understanding, spanning centuries. Lysera smiled, acknowledging the human role in this achievement. The night sky cleared, revealing stars shining. Over the desert, Claire looked up, feeling connected to something larger than herself. She had awakened a legend, guided a fleet, and created alliances that spanned worlds. Her actions were a testament to the power of simplicity and determination. Lysera spoke softly, "Your legacy will be remembered." Claire, "You have bridged civilizations, awakened life, and preserved knowledge across time." The words filled Claire with pride and humility. She had acted with courage and skill, and the results were extraordinary. Calith nudged Claire once more, signaling approval and trust. The dragon's presence was reassuring, and Claire felt a deep sense of connection to the creatures she had helped awaken. Lysera placed a hand on the dragon's neck, a gesture of calm and mutual respect. The elevator hummed steadily, a living monument to human ingenuity and ancient power. Claire understood that this was only the beginning. The knowledge contained within would guide future generations, and her simple acts of repair had set in motion a chain of events that would echo across the stars. Lysera turned to Claire one last time, before stepping toward the elevator core. "Your work has ensured balance. Claire, we will guide the fleet carefully and preserve the legacy of our people. Thanks to you." Claire smiled, realizing that her journey had transformed her. She was no longer just a technician, but a guardian of history and a link between worlds. The desert settled into calm, with only the faint glow of the elevator illuminating. The sand Claire watched Lysera and Calith move through the chamber, their presence a reminder of the past and hope for the future. She knew that human ingenuity had unlocked potential far beyond imagination, and that the story of the elevator and its guardians would continue across generations. Years later, explorers would speak of the woman who restored an ancient miracle with hands. A wrench and a stubborn refusal to give up. Claire Monroe had bridged the gap between civilizations, awakened dormant power, and preserved a legacy that would influence countless worlds. The elevator hummed softly, waiting for the next spark of human ingenuity to awaken it again.